Right then, let's have some fun. I'm Charrethan with Make Me Choose Between Two Wrestlers, Episode 3. Brief rundown of the concept. Men, women, tag teams, it doesn't matter. I have to pick between two of them. They can be favorites, least favorites, and you can leave them in the comments or find me on Twitter and let me know there. And really, it's just fun. It's just a whole lot of fun. And if I missed any of your suggestions, like in the comments from the first two episodes, please drop them in the comment box here and I will get to them. I do promise. I try to check everything, so I do apologize if I missed anything. Now, that being said, let's crack on with this. And thank you guys, though, for the great amount of feedback. I really do appreciate it. So, Son of J91 on Twitter, DDP or Sting? That's tough because DDP had that great rivalry with Randy Savage. I mean, easily the best rivalry of 1997. That or Steve Austin versus Bret Hart. It's really hard to tell. But I would say DDP and Savage. But DDP really did have a lot of great matches and the variations of the Diamond Cutter and all of that. But the problem is the only stuff I can remember really that was good was his WCW run. WWE wasn't all that good because they misused him. Undertaker Stalker, everybody. And, a bunch of the other stuff he did. But, now he's doing just fine with DDP Yoga, so I don't think he's really struggling at all. And I do love his WCW stuff. That being said, though, Sting, it's got to be Sting. Sting was my guy in WCW. Absolutely loved him. From the Surfer Sting to when he, dyed his hair dark and was still kind of doing he was still doing Scorpion Deathlock and still doing the flashy stuff. Once he got to the Crow Sting, it was a little bit weird. And then they fucked it up at Starrcade 97, goddammit. But even his stuff in TNA, at least until the last few years, still sticks out as some of my favorite stuff. I'm one of the few that actually like Joker Sting. Now, I'm not saying it was great, but at least he seemed like he was having fun with it. So, I gotta say Sting, even though I really do like DDP. Like, I honestly do. So, now, Homicide or Gallows? I got nothing against Homicide, but he was great in his team, in the original LAX, but Gallows is just really goddamn talented, really goddamn impressive. I gotta go with Gallows right there. So I don't really have too much to say about that. Though Homicide is good, I gotta go with Gallows. Kevin Thorne or Vampiro? Vampiro. At least Vampiro had something interesting about him. And not that Kevin Thorne's bad. Mordecai was shit. Kevin Thorne wasn't bad. Ariel was the main star because she pushed her goddamn boobs up, or they told her to push her boobs up. But I'll say Vampiro. Vampiro, at least, I liked some of the stuff he did in WCW. And I liked some of the stuff he did, especially with Pentagon, in Lucha Underground. So, Vampiro, 100% there. Now, Yazin, sorry if I mispronounce your name. Yazin, I apologize if I mispronounce that. 5085 from YouTube. Warrior or Luger? Now, you may know and others may know, I don't really care for either of them, but if we're going to go on which one I'd rather have, Luger at least had some pretty good matches. Warrior could be carried by the right person. Rick Rude, Randy Savage, DiBiase did good, and Hogan got a great match out of him at WrestleMania 6. Smoke and mirrors, but still, it was a great, iconic main event at Mania 6. Luger had that great run in series of matches with Ric Flair. A great run as U.S. champion from 89 to 90, and then from 90, late 90 to 91, until he won the championship. We won Flair. That didn't go too well for Luger. But Luger's matches will stand up more than Warrior's matches, especially that run where he had, 523-day reign as U.S. champion. Honestly, Lex Luger's got to be it. Lex Luger, goddamn great as, a U.S. champion. So even though I don't like the guy, I think he's a piece of shit, he ranks over Warrior there. And he's then asked Ruby Riott or Victoria. Victoria, nothing against Ruby Riott, who is good in her own right, has come back from those shoulder injuries, absolutely deserves much better than she's been fucking getting in WWE since her return, especially. But Victoria, who really should have shown up at the Women's Royal Rumble this year. I don't know why the fuck she didn't, and I'm actually really disappointed that she didn't. But I can watch her matches more than Ruby's in WWE. That being said, Ruby is good. She is very good, and when she's been allowed to show what she can do, she is goddamn incredible in the ring. But I'll take Victoria right now. Now, totality of the career, if we go with Ruby 5 years later, yeah, maybe Ruby's career might match up to Victoria's a little bit, but that feud with Trish, in particular, will always cement Victoria as one of my favorites. Because she was tough. She went down there being one of the Godfather's hoes, and basically got, trained, worked hard, fought through injuries, that knee injury in particular. That's why she always had that huge brace. But even her stuff in Impact, until they decided to make her a manager for no reason, she was great. And I'm sure still could be great. Now, I think she retired from wrestling. I think 2019 was her last full year. And I think she was hoping to show up at the Rumble and she didn't. But I'll say Victoria as far as career totality. Boss Antelope 86 from YouTube. Best brawler, Brody or Cactus? I'll say Bruiser Brody based on what I've seen. But Cactus Jack was an incredible brawler as well. I did just recently review the Dark Side of the Ring, the Killing of Bruiser Brody episode. And Mick Foley talked about wanting to face Bruiser Brody in the ring and patterning himself after him as far as being a brawler. Brody, I will say, was a better brawler. Cactus was a better wrestler. Now, that being said, it feels bad to slight Brody, who was very good in the ring, but brawling, I'm going to give the edge to Brody right there. Best technical wrestler, Zack Sabre Jr. or Bryan Danielson? I'm going to say Zack Sabre Jr., but, you know, Bryan Danielson, whatever the fuck you want to call him, his stuff in Ring of Honor especially was just goddamn great. And he is still able to be a great technical wrestler on WWE TV. He had that great match with AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Championship, which was a goddamn classic. Really goddamn good, and not something you usually see on WWE TV. But Zack Sabre Jr., I never get bored watching Zack Sabre Jr. Daniel Bryan has had bigger moments. There's no doubt about that. But I'm going to give the edge, technically wise, to, at least as far as, technical skill, to Zack Sabre Jr. But both are very, very good. Best High Flyer, Ray or Jushin Thunder Liger? I love Ray. I'm going to give it to Jushin Thunder Liger. I cried at his retirement. Him, Muda, Masahiro Chono got me into Japanese wrestling. There were a couple of others that did, but those were the main three. Seeing Jushin Thunder Liger from an early age was incredible. Muda was the first Japanese wrestler I saw where I was like, holy shit, this is opening up a whole new world to me. And then I had a buddy that whose uncle got tapes, and I was able to actually check some of that shit out, and it's just goddamn great. But yeah, Jushin Thunder Liger, I think his career will be more fondly remembered. Not that Ray's was bad. Ray has had many great moments, and Ray is still killing it. But Ray's also had a ton of injuries and a ton of time where he has missed large chunks. And that's not his fault. That's just how Father Time works. But I'm going to remember more of Liger's career than I am of Ray's, even though Ray has had many, many highlights and is still doing great, even in 2020. Chaos King from YouTube, Guerrillas of Destiny or FTR? This is tough because FTR I love from a technical standpoint as far as like great tag team work. They're a classic throwback. Arn and Tully, Midnight Express, even a bit of rock and roll in there as far as how they're able to do some stuff. But I would say Arn, Tully, Midnight Express, and a few others like that. Guerrillas of Destiny, though, might just be right up there because they're a great defensive tag team while also being able to just get the most out of their opponents. Tama Tonga is severely underappreciated as a worker, in my opinion, and Tangaloa is also, they're just a really, really good team. Now, I only got to see Tama Tonga live, as a single, but goddamn, he was great to watch. But Guerrillas of Destiny, I gotta say Guerrillas of Destiny, they've really been carrying the New Japan Tag Division for a long goddamn time. I mean, even when they aren't the champions, they're one of the few featured tag teams. And FTR is really, really good. And they're smashing it in AEW, at least as much as they can smash it. But I'm going to say Guerrillas of Destiny. Tomohiro Ishii or Suzuki? Ishii. Suzuki is really good. He scares me. He frightens me. He's had many good matches. Ishii's had better matches overall. As far as a track record, a run. Some of Suzuki's matches don't work all that well for me. It feels like they're just getting going in the end. Ishii, his G1 performances in the last 3 years alone have been great. And Suzuki's very, very good. And I can think of a few matches he's done that have been great, especially this year. One against Nagata in particular. But Ishii. Ishii will be my choice with in this discussion. And then Lance Archer or Walter. I love Walter's throwback feel. Just the fact that he's, the chops and everything, and he commands the stage. I actually got to see him live at one of the first indie shows I went to, his Progress and Defy co-promotion. Let me tell you right now, TV don't do justice for how fucking big that guy is. And there was a guy that wrestled there locally, Shaft, who took some of Walter's chops and just no-sold them. And it probably hurt like fucking hell. Also got to meet Tony Storm there, but that's another story for another day. Walter is very, very good. Archer has more of a standout quality to him. Walter is a good ring general. That is why he is called the ring general. I almost gotta say Archer. Archer's been in a few of my favorite matches, and Walter's been in really good stuff. But Walter, Walter is better when he's not selling nearly as much. Archer can sell and can only. It's really actually more difficult discussion than I thought. I'll give it to Lance Archer, but I feel bad slighting Walter there. But he is really good as well. But yeah, Archer just. Something about him just really scares me. Yeah, Walter scares me when he does the chops, but at times it seems like that's all he has. Now, it's not all he has. He has a great, arsenal of moves, but Archer can get you on the ground or in the air. Walter can hit the splash, but Archer's just got that better agility. So, Philip from Facebook, Great Khali or Giant Gonzalez? I mean, Giant Gonzalez at least tried. He had mobility in his knees. Khali didn't. And, that's just genetics, but Giant Gonzalez, I mean, the Giant Gonzalez-Undertaker feud I thought was the worst thing until they involved Undertaker and Great Khali in the feud, because at least Gonzalez could kind of move. He couldn't really move, but he could move a little bit better. He could bend at the knees. What could Khali do? Remember when he tried to go for the choke slam in that match just before SummerSlam 2006? It was the last man standing match, wherever the fuck it was. Fucking rotten. It was absolutely goddamn rotten. They were going to try to recreate that and have that match at SummerSlam, and the Boston crowd would have booed that out of the building. Nothing against Undertaker, but they would have booed Khali. So yeah, Giant Gonzalez. Thank you, Philip. So, Axe Adapter from YouTube. Worst storyline, Lashley Sisters or Bliss versus Bayley, This Is Your Life. Tough. This Is Your Life is really shit and ruined Bayley for a while. Lashley Sisters, because they had a chance to reinvent or, kind of reignite Lashley there. And within 2 weeks, they had fucking the whole I love my sisters thing. It was stupid. And then having the guys dressed in drag and doing this, and Sammy being very uncomfortable doing that. Lashley just like, what the fuck am I doing? This is what I signed for. $3.5 million a year, and that's what they're doing with him. But then again, given some of Lashley's, kind of feelings about certain things, I kind of wonder, how much he was really uncomfortable with it. But that's okay. Because this is just about storylines. Lashley Sisters would have to be it. It was more uncomfortable. It was more angering. Yes, Bliss and Bayley was bad. Lashley Sisters was worse. And then better title reign, Khali or Jinder. Khali, at least Khali only had 2 months. His reign was not great at all. He held the championship upside down a lot. He seemed genuinely happy. Jinder, him being WWE champion was goddamn ridiculous. He never deserved it and should have never gotten it. Khali at least only had a couple months. Jinder had his for, it was like what, May 2017 to like just beginning in November 2017. And they got off of him, before he was going to face Brock, which would have been absolutely goddamn ridiculous at Survivor Series 2017. But yeah, Khali, because he had the shorter one, so at least there was that. Best wrestler, Rollins, Moxley, or Reigns. Here's how I'd rank them. Rollins is the best. Reigns is number 2. Moxley's number 3. Moxley is very good, but I think the hardcore shit, really bothers me. Now, he can wrestle and is actually pretty good. His New Japan stuff is pretty good, but Rollins is ranked above him. Reigns is better than people give him credit for, myself included. I was way too harsh on Reigns, especially with how they were pushing him. But Reigns, just above Moxley. Though I will say that Moxley's New Japan run yielded some of his best work, and some of his AEW stuff has been pretty good. So, we get to Dan Curley from YouTube. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. Stratus or Gail Kim. Trish Stratus, though Gail Kim is good in her Impact run. Her work, especially against Awesome Kong, stands the test of time. Trish Stratus, though, overall, I think she had better feuds. I'm not going to say she was a better worker. I think Gail Kim may have been the better worker, or at least a better athlete, but the better worker, in my opinion, was Trish. Gail was, it's really tough, but I'm going to say Trish by a narrow hair. A harrow, if you will. But just very, very narrow, I'm going to give it to Trish. Gail's work, though, very underappreciated by a lot. Macho Man Randy Savage or HBK? Randy Savage, 100%. Not that Shawn was bad. Shawn's very, very good. And I'm not saying that Randy was always the easiest to work with, but goddamn, Randy had better matches as WWF champion than Shawn did. Yeah, I'm going to say that right there. Shawn's matches with Davey Boy Smith in 96 are pretty damn good. Other than that, I'm struggling to remember any great matches he had as champion. I can't think of too many. Randy Savage had great ones against various people, whether it's on house shows, house shows on the network, Coliseum home video. Yeah, he was he never defended on pay per view until his '92 run at SummerSlam '92. Oh dear, but yeah, it's like think about when he won it from Flair at Mania 8. That was a better match than pretty much anything Shawn had as far as champion, at least in my opinion. So I'm going to pick Randy Savage, and then Brett or Mr. Perfect. If we go just Intercontinental Champion, I would almost have to say Mr. Perfect. But if we're going to go total work, Brett. Brett's my favorite wrestler of all time, and Mr. Perfect's very, very good. His AWA run, and his runs as Intercontinental Champion in WWE were quite good. And then he also was in WCW for a bit. Even held the U.S. Championship at one point. But Brett, because his career is still going to stand the test of time. I fucking love Bret Hart. He's goddamn incredible. My favorite wrestler of all time. So then we get to Simone Bresci. Sorry if I pronounce that wrong. I really am, from YouTube. Street Profits to Private Party. It's hard to tell which one did this gimmick first, to be honest. Because Private Party, I don't remember seeing much of them before they got to AEW. But Private Party, I just think their tag works a little bit better. Now, Street Profits are good. Private Party doesn't have the personality that annoys me to death like the Street Profits, at least as far as on-screen persona. So I'll give it to Private Party right there. Even though I don't really have a ton of investment in them, I think Mark Quinn's the breakout superstar of the four, but especially of his team. Steiner's are Road Warriors. Road Warriors by a very small margin. My favorite tag team of all time. But the Steiner brothers, they were going to throw you whether you wanted to go or not, and they were really fucking good. But yeah, Road Warriors, both teams were super over and goddamn great. They didn't face off all that often, but fucking hell, they were both great to watch. But yeah, Road Warriors. Aldis or McIntyre? Nick Aldis. Personality-wise, I will give it to Drew McIntyre. I'm not saying Aldis doesn't have personality, but I will take a Nick Aldis match over a Drew McIntyre match. Drew has stepped up his game tremendously in the past couple years. And did it, on the indies before he came back to WWE. And then came back from injury. And had a great run teaming with Drew. Drew teaming with Drew. That would have been weird. Drew teaming with Dolph. Great match that they had against Ambrose and Rollins at Hell in a Cell. Actually, probably the best match on the pay-per-view. And this, this would be a tough choice. But Aldis, I think Aldis is more world champion-like than McIntyre is. Though McIntyre has carried himself much like a champion as the time has gone on. And really has been one poor guy because of the circumstances not being able to, be in front of crowds for this shit. Okay, Jared from YouTube. Jared's a great guy, by the way. Jake Roberts or Mick Foley? Promo-wise, I almost had to give it to Jake. Work-wise, I will give it to Mick. Jake was very good. Jake's time at the top, though, before, injuries and everything kind of went down, didn't really last that long. He had good runs in other territories before getting to WWE, and yeah, the neck injury may play part in that. Foley, I just feel more well-rounded performer. Easy for me to say. I think that Foley takes it right here. Though both, Jake had really, really great goddamn promos. Not that Foley didn't, but I think Jake beats him on that. Not so much now, but back then. Britt Baker, Michelle McCool, Britt. I don't like Michelle McCool. I won't discount that she didn't put in the effort in the ring. But she didn't do the Styles Clash, the Faith Breaker, all that well. And I don't know. I just always felt Layla was better. But it's not like Michelle's bad. But Britt, though I will say the tooth and nail match I did not care for. That really kind of soured me on her and everyone else involved. But Britt, I will say, I think has more personality. And then Wardlow or Jake Hager? Wardlow. At least Wardlow seems to have something. Jake Hager has absolutely nothing. He looks like a pile of rotting zebra meat, except the zebra meat actually has purpose because you can eat the good parts. You can find a good part in there. You can't find anything good with Jake Hager. Wardlow. I do think he needs something other than the F10 that he hits as a finisher, but I digress. Anyway, that's all I gotta say right there. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.